All right, what's up? Welcome to the Thomas Abram Podcast. This is kind of going to develop as we go. We'll see what the purpose is. Primary purpose right now is just to document like lessons I'm learning and people I'm coming across. Today we've got Landon Davenport on, my brother, and we're going to be talking about his transition from mission straight into solar sales. So he started his mission in Honduras and he learned Spanish, served for 2 years. And he came almost right out. He had like 3 weeks in Utah. He came almost right out to Fresno, and there's a lot of people speaking Spanish here. And I feel like he learned a lot of tough lessons this summer. So we're going to try to condense those lessons into 30 minutes or however long we feel like talking. And hopefully other people that are going on that same track from mission to door, and specifically solar, can learn something from the lessons that Landon learned. So what's up, Landon?
What's up, guys? I'm Landon. Just got back from our mission about 3 months ago. I'm here to answer questions and kind of just follow your lead.
Okay.
I've got a podcast before, so.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think that like people are going to be interested in this story because it's like something that a lot of people do, and probably a lot of people are looking at, should I do door to door, or should I, if I am I going to do pest security? You have a buddy, like everyone's doing window washing these days, So I think there's a lot to glean out of that. So give us like a little bit of a run through on your summer, how long you were out here, kind of what your schedule was like, what the time you spent, and then maybe let's start with like your first three key takeaways from your first summer.
Okay. So I've been out here about 3 months on and off. I went home a couple of times, family vacation, that our parents planned. And you could say that those times, I think summer sales, you got to stay in the flow. Consistency is key. That's probably one of the first lessons, actually, is being consistent. When you make a decision to come out and sell for a summer, you got 4 months, really, before you go back to school or pursue something else. Usually for kids my age, it's school. So I think when you decide to go out to sales, that's your summer. Is you're going to be selling every day, and you should have a fixed schedule, like how many hours you're going to be knocking. I feel like during the summer it changed every so often, just with different people coming in and out, and it kind of changes your flow of work. And so you don't know, oh, should I be out here in the morning, in the evening? So I think if you set a fixed schedule as a door-to-door salesman, it's going to be a lot better because you're going to know this is when I'm on the doors. I'm going to be knocking 8 hours a day. And then you don't really have to ask any questions like, oh, maybe I'll be out 4 hours a day, 5 hours. And so I think setting a fixed schedule is probably key to just finding success. If it just be in like 3 hours in the morning, 5 hours in the afternoon. I tried a little bit of everything. Would knock 9 to 12 or 9 to 1 or 3 to 8. Really just depending on the day. But I think if you just set a fixed schedule, you'll find a lot more success. And another takeaway is probably just staying in the right headspace. Solar is a different game than pest control or security or any other door-to-door sales. The sales are a lot less frequent because they're bigger systems and the money is a lot greater. And I think you really have to stay in the right headspace because you're going to see a sale, if you're really good, once a week, maybe for beginners once a month. And even that is worth the money once a month, getting a sale. So I think just stay in the right headspace, trusting the process, enjoying the process, and learning on as you go is really important. And I think the third thing is becoming better every day and writing down what you can improve, the objections where you got caught up on. I think a lot of the summer I kind of went through the motions, kind of stayed in the same weaknesses I've had in the beginning. And so I wasn't improving. I was maybe getting the doors, going a little harder, knocking more hours. But if I wasn't improving, I was going to see more success. It was more just looking for a lay down. But if you can improve your pitch by writing it down and practicing it, I think you'll see a lot more success. And it's becoming a 1 sale a month guy to a 2 sale a month to 1 sale a week. You'll see that progress. And so, yeah, I think when you decide to come out to summer sales, that's what you're going to be doing for 4 months. You're going to be consistent, knocking the hours, going to stay in the right headspace, trust the process, and you're going to be improving every day, writing down in practice, really. I think it's good to write down the way you can improve and then practice every day before you get out in the doors, and then perfect your pitch, perfect the sale, and then you'll just start seeing the results.
You kind of did a recap there, so I don't need to. But I think that like the reason that door is so impactful for young men, same thing. The reason that a mission is these aren't just keys to success in solar. They're actually keys to success in life. Like anything that you do that's worth doing. Like if everyone could do it, then it's a $30,000 a year job. That's just how it goes. And then the fewer people that can do it, the more mastery it takes, the more people are willing to compensate you for that. And no one can just walk in and be a master of anything. So that process is exactly what you talked about. It's like staying consistent, getting in love with the journey and the grind, and committing to a schedule, and committing to your income, not your outcome. Like what you actually put your input in, rather than worrying about the output of your actions. And then the second thing you said is mindset, making sure that you kind of need that mindset to stay with that consistency. And then it's all part of, I'm going to stay consistent, I'm going to keep the right mindset, and I'm going to get 1% better every single day. And that's the only way to confront anything that's really difficult. Like I'm dealing with, training people in the office right now, and it's the same conversation. So these principles are going to say, this can be the same thing in your math class that you do in college this year. Or if you study, physics, like it's going to be hard, and you just got to be committed to the time you put in and to getting better every day. Talk to us a little about your mindset. Like, I feel like everyone talks about that. That's an easy thing to say. Sales is mostly mindset. It's mostly energy. It's mostly a transfer of certainty and of energy. What tools or tricks did you learn to actually, because I feel like you knew that and you said that at the beginning of the summer, but you couldn't actually control your mindset, and you were largely a victim of how your mind felt that day. It was like, especially with some other people on the team, like you said, they're really volatile. They're like, oh, I'm not feeling motivated today, I'm not going to go out. Like that can kind of get to you. So what tools and resources did you use to try to get ahead of your mindset and get ahead of where your energy was at, so that you weren't just at the whim of your body's feelings and motivations?
Right. I think it starts from the beginning of the day. Starting off the day right, you can get yourself in the right mindset. Of course, you have days where it's ups and downs, find rude people on the doors. But if you prepare for that before, it's a lot easier to take it on the doors. So just starting out the day on time, staying consistent with the schedule, meditation, scripture study, working out, then you're already in the mindset that you're winning. And so once you get out on the doors, you're kind of ready just for whatever comes at you. And I think also before you get out there, is you're telling yourself it's going to be a positive day. You got to talk to yourself, get in the right mindset, not look at the past. I haven't been successful all week. Am I even going to get a sit today? Or, you just can't be negative. I think it's all about positivity and staying consistent. And I just started the day off right. And so if you start the day off right, prepare yourself, and you go into the day with good energy, even if you don't have success, I think it'll come out. Staying positive and not going to get too down.
What did starting the day off right, like, what does that mean to you?
I think just winning your morning helps you win the rest of the day. So if you woke up late, barely get on the doors on time, you're just not ready for what's coming at you. You haven't done practices. You haven't really gotten your mind. I mean, really working out helps me clear my head. So I guess starting the day right would just be staying consistent with your morning schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I zoom in there is like making and keeping commitments. Like if you tell me how often someone committed to something as far as waking up and did it, and I can tell you almost how successful their summer was just by looking at that. Like guys that say, I'm going to be at the gym tomorrow every day at 7, or they tell every day they look you in the eyes, I'll meet you at the gym, bro, like I'll be there. And then they don't show up. like I know they're gonna fail. Like it's just like clockwork because it's that making keeping commitments to yourself that gives you that self confidence. It's like if you can't even control yourself on when you wake up and what you do in the morning, like I need to exercise, I'm gonna eat healthy, I'm gonna do my cold plunge. And you tell yourself that every night before you go to bed, and you wake up and you don't do it, it undermines that like self confidence that you have. And then on the doors, people can just feel it. Like you feel like you're a liar to yourself. So how can you speak with any authority to someone else on what they can do with their life? So making keeping commitments is like, and as far as our values go at Bright House, like that's discipline. It's like if I said it, I'm going to do it, and it doesn't matter how I'm feeling that morning. Like if I said I'm going to the gym, I'm going to be there. And then if you can kind of do that with enough discipline, that you take the choice out of it. What you're doing is you take your higher self, and it's bringing the locus of control from outside yourself to inside yourself. Is it working? I wish did notifications. Is like if you don't have an internal local locus of control, that means I influence my reality. Like my decisions, I can change the world. My goals, I can accomplish them. Versus an external locus of control, you're like, oh, everything happens to me. I just always had bad luck. Maybe that's like something that your parents can give to you if your parents never did door-to-door sales, or they never had, if they never figured money out, whatever it is, like you can kind of tell yourself, oh, it's just kind of going to happen. The circumstances happen to you. And it all starts with taking your morning and planning your day and then executing that into reality. You start to see that my mind does control reality. Like I can change the world around me. I think that's like the principle there is keeping commitments, and that'll fall through with your mornings, and then like, oh, I can control the day, and it kind of fills up the rest of the day. But talk to us a little bit about like religiously, spiritually. And I'd be candid. I think everyone's going through the same stuff, and this can help their story. But like, and I remember talking to you on your mission. I was like, when you get home, like just stick with your mission routine. Like it feels easy on your mission. You're waking up at 6:30. You're exercising. You're reading the scriptures. And like if you got to read the book that was fun instead of your scriptures, that was like dopamine overload. You're like that'd be like the best thing ever. Or just talking to like a girl on your mission. Like it doesn't need to be late at night. It doesn't need to be in a movie. Like just talking about God can be exciting. You know what I'm saying? And then you come off your mission, and if you get out of those, like what was your experience kind of dealing with that flux back to reality after mission, and what lessons did you learn, and how are you going to take those lessons from your mission into school?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's really easy on the mission to stay consistent. Wake up at 6:30, have a good schedule. It's pretty much all planned out for you. One purpose, and that's to preach the gospel. And you have your morning routine set out, you know, your scripture study, planning, and it's really easy to be successful. If you're living the commandments and following the right handbook. So coming back to the real world, I think the hardest part for me was not having something to do. I didn't really know. I guess being first at home for 3 weeks, I didn't have a job, so I was just had so much free time. I didn't even know what to do with it. So I think that's where daily planning comes in hand. Is you plan out your day, and you're gonna make a plan for each hour, and you're gonna know what you're gonna be doing. So then you don't find dead time where you're just sitting on social media or just wasting time playing video games, things like that. And so, of course, being consistent with your schedule and then making sure you have something to do. That's why being out here helped me, because I had a job, I had a purpose to make money for the future. And also, I think just the people you surround yourself with is so important. Before your mission, you have certain friends, people you hung out with, but they might not be the best influences, or they might have the same vision that you have now as a returned missionary. And so I think it's important to realize that you're going to have to make new friends, or just be on your own for a little while, figure out what your vision is as a returned missionary, and then the friends will come. Like you'll attract people that kind of have that same the same goals and the same purpose. And so I think it's really important to be intentional about everything you do. They always say do the simple things like read your scriptures, say your prayers, go to church, go to the temple. But I feel like if you're not intentional about those things, then you're going to fall because you're not doing it to really grow, but just to, oh, I'm going through the motion so I don't fall. But if you're not growing, you're dying. It's a saying I've heard. But so I think being really intentional about everything, having something to do, which starts with daily planning, going through your day, making sure there's an event in each hour. Then you're not going to be finding dead time where you're just wasting your life away and not improving. And I think that's when you'll fall. Usually, is when you're not fulfilling your potential.
So what's with where's the disconnect? Because I've heard this from every RM, and then I mean we even saw this summer like guys are returned from their mission, and I mean correct me if I'm wrong, but you serve a mission. It's like like God spent time teaching me. I now have a higher degree of search for holiness and truth and peace. So I don't want to be out at 2 a.m. clubbing with chicks. Like that seems like a reasonable. Like those chicks probably aren't the ones you want to marry. You know what I'm saying? Or if they are, then take them somewhere else. Like what's this disconnect that I feel like is in the church, where these guys are getting home from their mission and they're just going right back into it. Because I know that like you saw that with yourself and you saw that with your friends, and I've seen that marks here with like all of our return missionaries. Like we're on the mission and they're like overly staunch. Like these people are like overly staunch on me. You know, like I was pretty darn dedicated on the mission. Like I definitely gave all my time to God. But maybe someone didn't like how I did it, or they feel like they honestly like made up rules that weren't in the handbook that were additional to that, and then like there's a lot of judgment that, in the church. Did you feel that in your mission? Like a lot of like culture pressure from other missionaries to be perfect?
Yeah, there was a lot of that perfectionism.
So why doesn't that like pressure or perfectionism, why isn't that leading? I feel like we're not having a very good translation of that to reality.
That's interesting. I think that's why a lot of people leave the church, is they have this idea of perfectionism. In the church, we have so many rules and commandments that God has given us, really so we can be happier. But when we fall or we're not living up to those standards, we feel like we're not worthy. And that's why I think a lot of people fall away really quickly, is they're like, I can't live up to these standards. I was able to do it for 2 years. But now that they're in the real world, it's really easy to leave those standards behind. And you kind of, as you fall away, I feel like you forget those lessons you learned, because God gave you more knowledge, but then when you kind of disregard that knowledge, He takes it away. And so you really have to lock in and keep improving, or you're just not going to be. I mean, of course, when you return from the mission, you're going to have the dip in the real world. You're going to be missing those spiritual experiences. It's not the same. You're not preaching the gospel every day. But I really think if you are able to keep that mindset that everything we do is to build the kingdom of God, then you can make that bounce back. I think it's just figuring out how to make everything you do be for God. And you can still work, you can still study with the purpose of building God's kingdom. I think it's just making that transition that you don't need to preach the gospel to be a successful disciple of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this on a mission. I love what you had to say about it. And it reminds me of what we said at our little fireside that kept coming up in the end of the Book of Mormon. Remember. Like it's one of the most common words in the Book of Mormon. It's like, remember. And sometimes I'd be with my friends that return home from the mission, and like I remember one experience is this guy was an AP on his mission, and we were trying to cast out a spirit that was being demonic, and like he didn't remember to say the name of Jesus Christ. And I was like, bro, did you not start a mission? He's been inactive for 10 years, but I was like, you've been an assistant to the mission president. Like, I know you've read the scriptures. I know you've read the New Testament. Like, the New Testament, right? Like, how did they do it? It was in the name of Christ. You know, but he couldn't remember to make that blessing in the name of Jesus Christ. And so I think that's what Satan does. He helps us forget really, really quickly. And it takes it so quickly, sometimes it's amazing. It's like you said, if you're not living or dying, it's like a stream that goes down. And if you're not swimming against the current, you're gone. Like the second you stop taking action, the second you stop moving forward in your progression towards Christ, now especially with the way how wicked the world is, you fall back really quickly. But on my mission, a mistake that I made is I thought that it was the mission's fault. I was like, oh, they're teaching us all these strict rules of the lower law, but then we go get off our missions and we have no way to manage ourselves. So we need to teach the higher law. And they got rid of the white handbook, and they were introducing, President Nelson was introducing this Principles for Disciples of Jesus Christ little blue handbook. Did they have that on their mission? And for me, it seemed a lot more higher law. Like, instead of here's the white handbook, the rules you need to follow, it was like, here's the principles the disciples of Jesus Christ follow. And it was supposed to be like, you take this and it's going to apply better to the real world. So now we're practicing. This is why they give everyone phones with social media, is they're like, they need to practice these principles. I know we can just take away their phones, but they need to practice these principles. Anyways, on my mission, like, we rolled out this new handbook, and we dialed back our guidebook, and we said, let's focus on what the prophet's giving, this new handbook. And what I saw was, like, my mission fell back like 20 steps. Like, the new guidebook just tells you to do companionship study, whereas our previous guidebook said, you're going to do this for the first 5 minutes, you're going to do this for the second 10 minutes. And so I went on transfers with missionaries, and I'm like, okay, show me what has the Spirit inspired you to do for companionship study? And it blew my mind. They were like, oh, we don't do companionship study. We don't know how anymore. It's not in the guidebook, or it's not in the Principles for Disciples of Jesus Christ, or we're not doing the guidebook. And I just it boggled my mind that, I thought, oh, we just need to release the higher law and people will live the higher law. And then my mission kind of went back to the law of Moses. We became really strict. We made sure people knew what to do. And it's kind of interesting how the church ebbs and flows. But I learned that lesson for myself. Like, just because you might start learning a higher law doesn't mean that the church is ready for that, or the missionaries are ready for that. And the more I read the scriptures, the more I see that happen pretty commonly. Like, God's literally down. He's teaching Moses the higher law up on Mount Sinai. And then he comes down and they're like worshiping a golden calf. And he's like, screw it. He breaks the plates. Like, he was down to give us the higher law, but the people couldn't even, he literally split the sea and led them out after all the miracles of turning the river to blood and killing the firstborn sons. These miracles were so prevalent on their minds, and they've already forgotten, right? They don't remember. It's just been a few days, months, whatever it was, and they're like, let's take off all our earrings and mold a golden calf so that we have something to worship. And so I feel like that frustration is probably real. It's probably a frustration that was my first time experiencing on the mission. So we tried to roll out, let's just focus on these principles, and the mission kind of crumbled. So before that, I probably would have been like, I think we should just start teaching the higher law so when missionaries come home, they can live it. But I think it's much more complicated than that, and I think it's really easy. I bet you some people, I don't know if anyone will ever watch this, but some people I know would probably have a knee-jerk response of oh, it's the mission's over strictness that causes us to not know what to do with that free time. Maybe they should be teaching us principles of how to navigate free time. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. And when I tried to input a solution that was well, let's just focus on principles, it totally shambled things because people were so used to the strict rules that just taking all that away, they felt like they had no course of action. So I don't know. I'm kind of just spitballing on this point, but
well, it's interesting because missionaries, they gain a lot of knowledge. They see miracles. They're preaching the truth every day. And then I feel like sometimes they fall the hardest after the mission. I was just reading the Book of Mormon of a group of Nephites that left to be with the Lamanites, and they said they were even more evil and wicked than the Lamanites, having already received a lot of knowledge from the Church of Christ that they were part of with the Nephites. And so I feel like the more knowledge you have, the more responsibility you have as a disciple of Jesus Christ. And when you can't live up to that, Satan takes advantage of that, and a lot of missionaries fall really hard, end up leaving the church or even talking against the church. And so really you have to live up to what you've learned, and that's the hard part, is making that transition. But if you're able to do it, then you're going to be able to help the world in a greater manner and be a better light and example. So there's a lot of responsibility as being a returned missionary. I think that kind of shows.
Yeah, you just reminded me of scripture. What's that chapter that talks about faith's like a little seed, you plant it, turns into a tree?
On the 32.
I'm curious. This is like my favorite on the mission because I'm always talking to these Australians that are like, I don't know how to have faith, mate. And I'm like, okay, you plant the seed and then you like nourish it and then it grows and then you get fruits. And you're like, oh, like that seed must have been legit or else I wouldn't have fruits. Or even you can say if it's growing, it must have been a good seed. I feel like it was a good place to start people. But it has a warning in here, kind of just along the lines with what you said. But basically it says like God withholds signs as a way of mercy. Like if he were to like Lammy and Lemuel, they see that angel and then they turn away from it. So now they're not just like dumb guys that didn't know anything. Now they're like closer to sons of perdition because they saw it and they turned away from it. And that's what I felt like. I've dealt with a lot of demons, a lot of bad people that are in the clutches of Satan in my life, and I've been in the clutches of Satan. That's just kind of how life is. It goes back and forth. But what I've noticed is the return missionaries' demons are way scarier. Like I'd much rather deal with someone who was never raised in the church, didn't serve a mission, and like their issues seem like pretty, like relative, like Satan's just got like a small demon on them, versus the guys that come home, or they were assistants, they were zoners, whatever they were, maybe nothing. They were just devout in the faith. And then when they turn away, like that's a much scarier, like Corey horror level intelligence that I come across. I've never really felt like too much satanic power from anyone that wasn't have left the church. Like even Elon Musk. This is a good example. Like, even I'm sure Satan has some sort of clutch on him. He's fleshly, he's human. But like, I don't feel like he's evil. I don't feel like he has like some demonic presence like sending him down to the gall of bitterness and endless woe. Whereas that dude that led the FLDS church, he's like in jail right now. No. I wish this was like Joe Rogan and I could be like, pull it up. You guys know what I'm talking about? I gotta pull it up. It's on Netflix. There's a show of like this guy. His name's Warren Jeffs. You guys never heard that name? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, Warren Jeffs, Netflix. So it's called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, and it's on Netflix. And it's this FLDS guy that is running a polygamy camp down in southern Utah, and like the demons that were in that whole story are creepy, crawly, way worse than like. Even a guy like Elon Musk, he has so much intelligence. I don't think he's like ever turned away from Jesus Christ or like an angelic experience. I feel like, in fact, that if he had that, he might accept it. Whereas Warren Jeffs, like he reads the Book of Mormon all the time. He seems to have had spiritual experiences. And next minute, like he's down in Texas, he built his own temple, and they're having like weird sex rituals with underage girls. It's like the demons that are involved in that are way, way scarier than, because he had a lot of knowledge that he had to turn against for that. Because he's reading the Book of Mormon every day, he's reading the Bible every day. Like there's a high degree of spiritual knowledge involved in that, and then he's using it to take advantage of people. Like that is way, way scarier. Not that like every guy that leaves the church is Warren Jeffs in any way, but the more knowledge they have, it seems to be, to me, a lot more demonic and scary than people who just aren't Christian. But I do want to read that, Mark. Be good on time. What are we at right now? 30 minutes. I'd love to hear it. So, Alma chapter 32, verse 17 and 19. There are many, if they say, if thou wilt show us unto us a sign from heaven, then we shall know of surety, and then we shall believe. Now I ask, is this faith? Behold, I say unto you, nay. For if a man knoweth a thing, he hath no cause to believe it, for he knoweth it. Now how much more cursed is he that knoweth the will of God, and doeth it, than he that only believeth, or hath cause to believe, and falleth into transgression. So God, knowing his children, and knowing how apt we are to forget, knowing that even though we think we want a spiritual experience, he's like, oh, I don't think you do. Because then you're going to be accountable to that knowledge, and Satan's going to have more of a grasp on you when you turn away from it. Because maybe your spiritual experience has increased, but that doesn't mean that your discipline has increased. Like knowledge isn't necessarily consistency and diligence. So the more knowledge you have, without consistency and diligence, it's actually a really scary place to be. That's kind of like Solomon area, like from Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't, maybe he got his magic power a little bit too quickly or whatever, where he had too much knowledge, but he didn't have the temperance and wisdom and consistency of Gandalf. So he's just like, I'm just going to follow whatever power I see. He ends up following Sauron. So it's actually like a blessing when God withholds these miracles because he knows that we're going to forget them. It's kind of sad that he has to do that. I wonder how much he'd be willing to share with us if he wasn't afraid of damning us.
I think that requires a lot of faith on our part because I feel like he will show us miracles. And we just have to trust in him. And if he sees that we're obedient with the knowledge that we have been given, then I think he'll show us more miracles. And when we live up to that worthiness, he'll show his hand more often in our lives. And I guarantee you, the prophet and apostles, they pretty much have a perfect knowledge that Christ lives. And because the amount of miracles they've seen and the experiences they have had. And so I think if you're just faithful to the knowledge you have received, God will show you those miracles.
Yeah. It's really, I think people have it backwards. Like they think, show it to me and I'll have faith. I have this with some of my employees. They're like, give me the raise and then I'll do the work. I think that God is like, in the same way, he's like, no, you have to become that person and then the raise just comes. Mm-hmm. You're making me so much money that I have to pay more. It's not like the other way around. Some people think if I had this much money, then I could be that person. Because then I would be less stressed in my whatever it is. So yeah, similarly, like, I think sometimes we're like, show it to me and then I can believe. And God's like, it's not how it works. Like your faith has to come up to this level and then I'm happy to show it to you. But when you try to do those backwards, that's when you get yourself condemned. But in conclusion, like, do you feel you're going to do summer sales next summer? What was your kind of takeaways and moving forward? Are you like sales is your next best thing, or you're going to put a little more energy into law and whatever else you know how to study?
I think sales is a great option to make some money, and really, if you don't have a job yet or a career, just to have that, if you can master sales, I feel like anyone can if they put the work in. The training, the practice, and just the discipline. I think it's a great way to provide for yourself as you go through college and kind of figure out what your next step in life is. So I plan on coming back next summer and doing sales. Right now I'm single. I don't have a wife or kids to take care of. So I think even if I did, I think sales would be a great option because the money is there. I've seen it. And there's people around me that are making that money. And so I think it's a good, for me, I still don't know what my calling is, if it is law or doctor or anything like that, but to pay for that schooling, I think sales is a great job for that.
And then for next summer, we're going to start from day one, writing down every time we get an objection, we don't know what to say. We're going to like only sign people that are dead set, consistent on working 8 hours a day. And if they're just kind of here to party and work 20 hours a week, we don't really want to waste our time training those people. And then we want people that want to level up and are hungry for consistency and financial success. And that's what summer needs to be about. And the rest of the year it can be kind of about chilling and doing what other people do. But I'd rather focus hard for 4 months and know the year's going to be taken care of than goof around during the summer and have to work all year.
Right. So I think if we kind of surround ourselves with a good team and everyone has a positivity and good energy, I think it'll just lift up the whole business and everyone's sales will go up and everyone's going to be a lot happier with the turnout of their summer. And so I think the summer was a great learning experience to prepare for next summer and be more successful.
Hopefully we'll get Reagan out if she doesn't get married or something.
I probably will.
Maybe we'll get her husband out too. But yeah, thanks for watching or not. And Thomas Abram and the Davenports logging off.
Peace out.